Friends, I want to thank you again for joining me. Today I'm here with Daine Patton. Dane owns Bats to Rats, wildlife control and prevention in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Dane, you service all of Nebraska, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
That's awesome. If you don't know Dane already, you should jump over and take a look at his presence on Facebook. Something I really admire is the positivity and consistency that he spreads on the platform. Definitely check it out. It's well worth a look. And Dane, I think that comes from a place of having a fun backstory. So by all means, if you could take a minute to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to the wildlife world where you are today.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Tate, for having me on your podcast here. Super excited to share some of my story, my experiences with your audience, and hopefully it can help somebody out there. So yeah, my name is Daine Patton. I am the owner of Bats to Rats Wildlife Control and Prevention. I'm located here in Lincoln, Nebraska. We service Lincoln, Omaha, the entire state of Nebraska for bat and rodent exclusion work. We do nuisance wildlife trapping here in the cities, and then we even go into parts of Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri for exclusion work for bats. Next year actually is going to be year number 10 that we've been in business. So I started back beginning of 2015, and 2015 just turned 30 years old. I'd been in this industry. I got into pest control back in 2007. And the reason I got into pest control is funny. Before pest control, I used to manage family fun centers, laser tags, birthday parties, arcades, go-karts, mini golf, all that kind of stuff, and really enjoyed doing that kind of stuff. I really had fun doing that stuff. And I started in that industry when I was 16 years old. And by the time I got to 19, I got hit with one of those life altering changes that happens to you and found out that I was going to be a dad. And my first son was on the way. So I had my first son when I was 19. And from 19 to 22, I was a dad. It didn't really work out with his mom. We were still friends, but we just weren't destined to be a couple together. And doing what I was doing was a lot of nights and weekend work. And I was sacrificing that time with my young son at that point. And I wanted to do something where I had more of a kind of 9 to 5 job. And I wanted to work outside. Everything that I did before was always inside this big building. And my dad has done construction his entire life. And I've always had that background. I'd help dad when he needed help, or if I wasn't working, I'd go and work with him. And so I have this construction background. He's done everything from siding to windows to roofing to sunrooms, decks, fences, all kinds of stuff. So I've done a lot, but I knew I didn't want to do that forever. I've seen the kind of life that he's lived and how it's been on his body and all that kind of stuff. And I knew I didn't want to do construction, but I wanted to do something outside. And I found that somebody was hiring for a termite treater. And I was like, I liked to kill bugs when I was a kid, so maybe that would be fun. So I went in and applied for that. And I had management experience, and I'd been a manager for a while, and he told me in the interview that I was too qualified for that position. I was like, I can do the job. That's what you want. You want somebody to do the job. So just give me a chance. I've never done anything like this before, but I think I can handle it. So he brought me on as a termite treater, and I loved doing termite work. I go to 1 or 2 houses a day, do a full termidor wraparound treatments on the house, really accomplish that I did something that's going to protect this house, and they're not going to have any problems with termites for many years. And after a couple years of doing that, I became one of the only master certified termite treaters in Nebraska at that time. I think there was probably 5 or 6 of us at that time. And I was treating anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 ounces a year for termites. And that's in Nebraska where the ground freezes. So we were doing a lot of treatments.
Yeah.
And then I got moved into a route after that because he said I was doing such a good job. He wanted to move me to pest control route. That's completely different work than termite work. And I didn't love pest control work. I didn't love 200 to 250 customers I had to call every single month and schedule. And it was all on the road. I had 2-hour away appointments from Lincoln, and I had a small son in childcare, and if something happened, he got sick, or needed something and I was out of town, had to find somebody to go pick them up. And it was a headache. And pest control is great. It has its purpose and serves what it does, but I'm the person that wants to come out and solve your problem when I show up. I don't want to just band-aid your issue until you need me in 30 or 60 days.
Sure.
And we had a lot of rodent control customers here, being Nebraska, having a lot of cornfields and stuff like that. When harvest comes, there's a lot of mouse issues. People would call in because they'd get mice every fall or winter. And I was like, there's some sort of reason that you're getting mice. It's not because you don't have mouse bait out or you don't have traps set. So I started taking some extra time and looking at these houses and figuring out how the mice were getting into the house and sealing that up. We'd still set our traps and put our poison blocks out. But instead of doing extra services for replacing bait or dead mice on traps every couple of days or couple of weeks, I stopped getting those extra service calls. And I had happy customers, but they didn't need my service anymore. So they call in and they cancel their service. Even though they're happy, they just didn't need me anymore.
Sure.
And our boss at that time was like, Dane, you got 10 cancels this month. And I was like, well, yeah, they canceled because they don't have a problem anymore. They don't need our service. And it wasn't like I was trying to upsell them on whatever kind of spray that they needed. That's not what they called for. They called for mice. I fixed the problem. Boom, we're good.
Yeah.
And we had a difference of opinion, different way of how he thought that we should be servicing them than I did. And got to a point where I couldn't go on that way and treat customers the way that they wanted to treat them. And I said, okay, give me all your problem customers. Let me start doing all this wildlife work is what it turned into be, and a lot of exclusion work. And then we started doing bats, and then we bought a wildlife company because they saw the value in what I was doing. It was an older gentleman that had been in the business for a long time. He was trying to get out. So we bought his company. I learned everything I could from him. I went and got some certifications from some different universities. And then, so by 2010, I was like full doing wildlife work at that point. And I did that for the next 4 full years for that company. And they're a big corporate company. People will know who they are, but they just don't, they treat customers like numbers and they treat their employees like numbers. They're not like people. And I'm family based. I started a family when I was really young. I've always had a good family life and I treat people the way I want to be treated. So in 2014, I was doing a lot of thinking and you know what? I think I can do this work for myself. I have a truck. I have tools. I know the skill. So end of 2014, I decided I'm going to go all in on myself, start my own business. And Bats to Rats was born in the beginning of 2015. I think March 1st was the first day that I actually started working as a Bats to Rats. And now we're, like I said, next year, we're going to be 10 years. I've got a team of 6 full-time people, which is absolutely incredible. And nothing that I ever thought 10 years ago would happen now. I just thought that I could bat-proof some people's houses and rodent-proof some people's houses and remove some raccoons and squirrels a couple times a week and be happy. And now building a team that we're taking in 20 to 40 calls every single day and getting these people serviced on a very effective and efficient way. It's so rewarding to see where we were and where we're at now and where we're going. I plan on building us out and having multiple locations in the next 3 to 5 years, and super excited about the journey so far.
But yeah, it sounds incredible. And congratulations to you on the duration of the business and the growth of the business, because that's something I think a lot of operators strive for and want to accomplish. And you are just, you're putting it in and making it work. And you can't ask for anything better than that. And you've got a great mindset. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that, because even just hearing your intro and listening to your story, starting the family young and making those decisions around, okay, this is how I need to focus on my young family. This is the change that I need to make. And it pushed you into a position where you went out and explored pest control. And it's funny, the number of operators that I talked to who didn't even know that pest control was the option or the route that they were going to go, and just found it, and then found that they loved it. Obviously, something I see you post on Facebook a lot is stay consistent. I see that in all of your posts. And so I'd like to, I'm curious when that was, because it feels like maybe that might be a motto or a mantra for you. I'm curious how far back that goes and how you look at consistency in terms of when you transitioned from being an employee to starting the business and scaling it out. How important has consistency been for you?
Yeah. So being consistent, staying consistent has changed my life. Started when I was 30 years old. I wasn't, I've never been what you would call probably a healthy individual for a lot of my life. I always struggled with weight, and I just used a lot of self deprecating humor and wasn't ever super happy with who I was. But I always knew that I had to do stuff for other people. And especially having a son at 19,
Mhm.
I always had to show up and make sure that he had shelter, food, was taken care of. And I got married. I found my wife back in 2000. Yeah, I think it was end of 2008 is when I met my girlfriend, who's turned out to be my wife. And always probably been what they say is like a dad, but deep down I knew that they were just like I wasn't living to my full potential. And I tried to lose some weight, and that happened, but I did it the wrong way, did it for the wrong reasons. And then as you're trying to scale and build a business and the stress of life comes on, and then the whole COVID thing happened. So I turned to drinking quite a bit and really put on some weight. And I never had any like major health scares, but I knew me walking around at 330 pounds was not what I should have been doing. And at that time, I also had two more sons, and realizing that I wasn't the example that I wanted to set for my sons for them to grow up. And I had to get brutally honest with myself and just stand in the mirror and look at myself and break down every excuse that I kept telling myself of why I was doing what I was doing and why I looked the way that I looked. And I couldn't carry my laundry from the basement upstairs without being winded going up steps carrying laundry. Like I couldn't go play sports with my kids because I wasn't in a physical shape to be able to do any of that kind of stuff. And on top of that, at work, being that heavy, I wasn't being safe, or I didn't even want to get up on a ladder or get up on a roof.
Sure.
I just wasn't sturdy enough to do that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm letting everyone down around me. So I started a weight loss journey at that time. I got brutally honest and said, I need to change. I hired a health coach. He was exactly what I needed at the right time. He poured into me a lot of information about nutrition, about exercise, about healthy living, and completely changed my mindset. What started as a weight loss journey turned into the most incredible personal development journey I didn't know that I needed.
Mm.
And that's how Stay Consistent started, because my coach at the time, Matt, he taught me about being consistent with the boring things,
Sure.
doing the boring things every single day over time is going to get me the results. Losing 116 pounds wasn't going to happen overnight, but we knew that was the vision. That's where I wanted to go. And if I did these things consistently every day, that I would get there. And day in and day out, I started drinking more water. I started tracking my food. I started tracking my steps. I started tracking my workouts. Just all these little things started compounding on each other. And over time, about 18 months, I lost all that weight. And I healed my body, but I started to heal my mind as well and started learning new ideas and really understanding how if I put the work into myself, the capacity for me to give grew way more than I thought before. I thought I always had to give and give, but instead of if I started giving to myself first, I can give to others even more. With me being in a better physical shape now, I've been able to take those same principles and put them into the business, and it's been able to grow. And there's definitely a correlation between me being in my best physical self and now the business being in its best self. Like it's in the best position it's ever been, and it keeps getting better because I know that I'm going to keep getting better myself. And At that same point, I'm not any, I always tell people I'm not anything special, except what's special about me is I'm willing to do the work. And not that many people are willing to do the work every single day. And that's why they say, I can't have the results that you have. I say, yes, you can. Just watch what I do.
Sure.
I didn't recreate the wheel. I'm just doing what other people that have been successful are doing. And I'm just following their footsteps because I don't need to make the same mistakes that I already made.
That is incredible advice. And it sounds like that personal development journey fit well with your business timeline too. I'm curious, and this will be maybe this is a little bit more philosophical of a question than it is something that is advice to operators. But when it comes to especially small business owners, as it relates to health and personal development, something that I have heard time and time again from people, and I'm sure that you have as well from people that you've interacted with, is, oh, I'm starting a business. I don't have time to focus on myself. As you were starting a business and growing a business, and especially one that became the success that it is today, how did you think about time and how did you think about the investment you were making in yourself as it related to your business?
Oh yeah. No, actually, I coach other people now that I've been put in this position where I have a certain level of success. So I'm trying to coach people on the level that I'm at or below to help them up. And time is one thing that I had to learn how to manage. We all make excuses, and I made excuses for so long that I didn't have the time to work out, or I didn't have the time to meal prep, or I didn't have we didn't have time. The thing, we all have the same amount of time. It's how do you be intentional with that time? And my schedule, my calendar is completely time blocked out. It didn't start that way. It started a little bit at a time, making sure that I have 30 minutes for this, I have an hour for this, 20 minutes for this, and just putting everything on my calendar. Cause I know if it's on my calendar, I'm going to do it. And so time blocking has been huge in the progression to be able to get everything done. And as a business owner, we wear all the hats, especially at the beginning. And understanding that I can't do everything during the same day. And I was trying to do that. I'd try to be the bookkeeper and I'd try to be the fulfillment, the operator. I'd try to be the manager. I'd try to be the marketer, all those things during the day. And it was like, how do you go and have energy to do this and then do that? And then I get home, and who's most important in my life is my family. All my energy was drained and I didn't have energy for them. There's something wrong with this situation. If we tell ourselves that we're building this business for our family, but then when we get home and we don't have energy to spend time or have fun with our family, then why are we doing this? We have to be smart and be intentional with how we do things. So now, like on Mondays, they're office days. I'm usually on my computer taking care of things that I need to, reports, all that kind of stuff. Tuesdays are reserved for field days. So I can go out with the guys and we can look at projects. I can help them with stuff that they need help on. Maybe I got to jump in and do some inspections or something like that if the guys are booked up. Wednesdays, content day. I'm making content for social media, advertising, all that kind of stuff. Any kind of marketing channels that we do. Thursdays are one-to-one days. I schedule one-to-ones throughout the day, and that's to meet with other business owners, meet with coaching clients, meet with strategic partnership people that I want to help them and how our business can help their business, and have those one-to-ones that day. And then Friday is just a cleanup day. And then Saturday, Sundays, family days. And then the evenings are all reserved for family time. So I just got very intentional with how I spent my time. Because if I went to go do a sales call and a one-to-one, and I had to do some training and I had to, like, everything, all that requires different energies. And I was just so drained when I was trying to do everything at once. Now I know exactly what I'm doing every day, and I can bring all the energy that I need to for that specific thing. And I'm not going to be pulled in multiple directions.
That's amazing advice. And I love the intentionality with which that you have built out your week and your calendar, both on a micro and macro level. It reminds me a lot of there's an old saying that I heard from a business coach of mine that it takes more energy to start and stop than it does to continue on. And the intent behind that saying being focus on one set of tasks at a time. You don't allow yourself to think about, okay, I have a call, I have a meeting, and then I've got a report to write, and then I've got to do this, and then I got to go out in the field, and then I got to come back and I got to plan routes because you'll never get all of that done. The starting and stopping of all of those different tasks takes more than just doing one of them would. And so it's interesting to hear just how intentional you've been. It's a great segue into back into some of the maybe more tactical advice and questions that I have specifically. Looking back at your transition from employment to getting Bats to Rats started, did you start with a book of business or a handshake from the previous company, or what was your start into the industry like?
Yeah, no, I did not. I started from ground up, bootstraps, as they say. The company I worked for before, I gave them a 2-month notice that I was going to take off. And I said, if you want to hire somebody and I can train them for 2 months, go for it. But I'm getting out of here. They didn't hire anybody. They just decided that after I left, they were going to try to find somebody. Good luck to them.
Yeah,
I have a, I have a fairly niche business, wildlife control. There's not that many of us out there that do what we do.
sure.
In my town, there's very few that do what I do. I have a name, Dane, that isn't that common. So once I had to just get out and get people understanding that Dane still took care of bats and rodents, and
Hmm.
instead of this name, it's bats to rats. And there was a lot of thinking about what the name of the company was going to be. And so what do we take care of? We take care of bats and mice. We take care of rats also, but rats aren't as prevalent in our area as they are in some.
Sure.
But bats to mice doesn't rhyme as well as bats to rats.
This is true.
I was like, that's what I want to be. That's what we do. That's what we take care of. And let's run with that. So I spent a lot of time that first couple months just going out and doing introductions and leaving business cards with places and say, I still do this work. It's just under this name now. And slowly but surely, people started to call me. The first job they had, I think, was like an $80 bird out of a chimney or something like that. And I was like so stoked that I made $80 my first week out. We all understand like how much money we get paid from our W-2 employment. I was like, well, I can do this much work and for myself, then I'll be happy. And that first year, I hit that number, but I didn't realize you don't get to keep all that.
Right.
I started a business, but really I just started a job, for myself. I owned my own job, and learning business was a whole new set of skills that I didn't know that I needed. But over time, in hiring coaches and following mentors and just putting myself in rooms with people that have done it before,
Mm.
maybe it's uncomfortable at the beginning, but then I get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then once I get to that level, then I know I can pour into other people and bring them up with me. And then I put myself in another room that has much higher level people so I can learn and absorb and be a sponge for that information so that I can give it back to others. Because that's really what, if we're not learning and then teaching and giving back, like, why are we really doing what we're doing?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And this is a good opportunity to thank you for being on today and sharing some of the information that you have been able to take in and absorb and give that back to other operators. I think that what you're doing is incredible. And again, just want to take a quick second to thank you for being on. So in those early days, I know you said you felt like you bought yourself and built yourself a job, but it's a job that you own, of course. So it's nice and it's comfortable, but you do have a certain level of pressure, especially when it comes to client acquisition and building that book of business and figuring out, okay, where does it's maybe proverbial depending on how well the first year went, but there's this mindset of where does the next meal come from? What was it that brought you from a place of, okay, where's the next one coming from to really hitting your stride and saying, okay, we are going to get 3 or 5 new ones this month or 3 or 5 new ones this week? What was it that made the impact that flipped the switch?
Yes. So joining some local like network marketing groups in my area was really key into growing my business. It was I think they're all over the place, but BNI was
Yeah.
the thing that I joined, Networking International. I joined a group of, it was a pretty good sized group, like 30, 35 people when I joined. And they had a good high level people in there. And it gave me every week we met and I had to get up for 60 seconds and talk about my business and tell them what I do. And it explained, and it really gave me a good platform to get comfortable talking about my business and talking about how I help people.
Mhm.
Because somebody says wildlife management or wildlife control, they don't necessarily know exactly what it is that we do on a day in and day out basis. If I just say, do you have bats? Call me, because I'm in a business where you don't need me until you need me.
Sure.
But then you need me right away. Getting people to understand what it is that they do, what it is that we offer, the services that we help people with, and the prevention side as well. I can look at a house and I can tell you exactly what possibly could go wrong with this house, because we love our builders and our architects, but they don't necessarily think about our wildlife friends when it comes to building these certain structures that they do now.
Sure.
Come in and say, yeah, this looks great, but you're going to have bird problems here. You're going to have bats over here. You're going to have rodents here. You have a good place for squirrels to hang out here, giving you all the information so we can make decisions on how we can prevent these things from happening, or when they do happen, give you a solution to get it taken care of right away. And so word of mouth networking was huge. Showing up and being visible at the events, it was huge. And then once I learned that I could do the same thing with social media, so I can show up in a room with 20 or 30 people, great. And maybe I don't get to have a huge connection with all of them, but using social media platforms to do the same thing, the same idea, try to provide value to people, give to others, whether it's just sharing your stories, sharing the things that you've learned, giving them some sort of helpful advice or tips, means that you're going to stay top of mind for people. And that's what we need to do in this busy world and in business world, is we always need to be top of mind. People spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing and ads and billboards and radio and all that kind of stuff. But if you understand that, say, if you have 2 to 3,000 friends on Facebook, and if you're constantly providing value, constantly engaging with them and talking to them, you don't need 100,000 people to see your stuff. You just need 100 people to see your stuff that are people that are willing to pay for your service and hire you for what it is that you do. So just being really intentional with that, how you show up to those rooms, how you show up online, and not using social media as a place to complain about things or say negative stuff about whatever, just like using it for positivity, using it to build each other up.
Sure.
And once you do that, like, people will remember you for what you do. Like, I rarely talk about bats and raccoons and squirrels and stuff like that on my social media platforms. I do occasionally, maybe 15% of the time, but that 85% of the time is just trying to help them and show them the path that I've been taking and the things that I've been doing, and hopefully inspiring them to be that best version of themselves, because every day I'm trying to be the best version of myself.
Yeah, the jump from in-person networking to social media is one that I don't think enough people make. I always tell people, despite running a marketing agency, and so it comes off, it's a little counterintuitive when people hear me say this, but I always say, I firmly believe that your best marketing is your network and your word of mouth. If I could get every operator to only get leads and calls and customers and establish relationships from people that they already knew, it would be a beautiful thing, because everyone's building that network and growing that level of communication. Making the move from in-person to social media, I think a lot of operators found was a forced necessity in the pandemic years, and especially 2020, when there was a big unknown about what was going to come next. Had to network on social because we weren't, in many cases, weren't even allowed to go see people. Was that a catalyst for you as well, or were you big on social and bullish on social prior to the pandemic?
I didn't even have a Facebook page before I started my business. There wasn't anything that I ever thought about using or anything, just because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Sure.
Didn't know how powerful it could be. And so many people that did know weren't using it to its ability and being effective or being intentional. And during that time, I posted a lot of things that, because what I was into was drinking and stuff like that. So I posted a lot of that, and that's what my algorithm, my feed showed me in that. And once I realized I had to get rid of that old version of myself, get rid of the old habits, the things I was interested in, started following new people, new ideas, things that were uplifting, engaging, and then seeing how other people are doing it. I have a story. Why don't I just share my story? Somebody told me one time after I told them the things that I've done and accomplished physically changing my life. And he was like, "How much are you sharing with people?" And I was like, "I'm not really." And he's, "Who's missing out because you're not showing up?" And I was like, I never thought of it that way. I never thought people being affected by my life because I wasn't showing up in a certain way online. And now that's what I do every single day. The things that I post, I need for me to remind myself, but also I know that it's going to help somebody else. And visibility is our responsibility when we're trying to build our business. So if I'm the face of my business and I'm visible, my business is always going to be visible. And we get so caught up, especially as solo guys, a guy in a truck, like we're so focused on taking care of that customer right away. We start to forget about the marketing aspect, maybe especially when we're busy. And then when we're slow, we're like, how do we get leads? We need to start doing marketing. You should have been marketing back when you were busy, when you could have been building content and all that kind of stuff at the same time. We just forget about that kind of stuff because we don't know what we don't know. And now that I do know that I got to talk about this consistently with people so they get it underneath their belt too and say, okay, I don't want to fall into that trap because small business is not easy. Small business isn't all rainbows and sunshine. So how do we work together, learn from each other to build these good habits so we can all be successful?
Amazing advice. The line, "Who is missing out because you aren't showing up?" It should be pinnacle to everybody who says that they do what they do because they want to help people. For those operators who are out there that get their energy and derive passion from knowing that their customers are sleeping soundly at night without the risk and the fear of wildlife in their homes, who is missing out because you aren't showing up? Be present, be more present, be out there, be willing to network and put yourself out there to be able to help more people. Dane, as we come to the conclusion of our time here on the show, what wisdom would you impart to someone who is just starting out? If there's one piece of information or one thought or one track of mind that you could lay out for people as they begin their journey into pest control or wildlife removal, what would that be?
Sure. So a big thing that I see, especially in a lot of our Facebook groups and chats and stuff like that, is we're we try to pigeonhole ourselves into this niche that we're at, right? And I did this too, and I was like, my business is different. Like I I said that all the time, and I hear other people say that all the time. And my business is different than other businesses, and what works for other businesses can't work for mine because it's so different. And it's not true. It's an excuse. That's a lie that we tell ourselves to sabotage and keep us in the same place. Business across the board is fairly similar. We've all got P&Ls that we've got to track. We've all got customers that we need to service, customer service, HR, all of that stuff is universal when it comes to business. So build relationships with people in your industry and adjacent industries. Like I build a lot of relationships with roofers, get on roofs and are replacing roofs and doing that kind of stuff. And lots of times there's gaps because of these new roofs getting put on that allow bats to get inside. So I'm building all these relationships with these people and these businesses that are helping the customers that I'm looking for too. And like, we don't need to always be like bad mouthing. What we can is we can show up and we can educate. We can show them why it is that what they're doing is causing these issues for the customers. And I love to teach and show these different roofing companies what's going on because that gives me the authority and shows them that I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not there just to bash them. And I'm like, here, I can help you with this. If you guys want to do it yourself, great. You're going to help serve your customer better. If you don't want to take it on and you want me to help your customer, just know they're going to get 5-star service because that's what we provide. So you're going to look even better for your customer. And understanding relationships matter so much when it comes to building business.
I think that you have just shared one of the most important things that a new business owner could possibly hear. And I want to thank you for that. Being respectful of your time, I know that we have to bring this to a close. I just want to say one thing before we leave, which is that when I met you and we met at the Wildlife Expo, I had the honor of being able to speak at that event, and I was thrilled to see you front and center. And then I realized that you were front and center at all of the presentations and not
Mm.
just mine. And so the thing that I took away from that and what I learned from you before we even got to have a proper conversation is pursuing knowledge and information and perfecting your craft. I could see from the second you walked in, that's exactly what you intended to do at the expo, is perfect your craft and learn as much as you could. And I just got to give you a compliment and say that is incredible. And that is something that I think a lot of people miss, is pursuing that knowledge and being willing to build excellence in yourself. So it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience prior to getting off today?
I greatly appreciate you saying that. And how are you showing up in this world? I ask people that all the time. Is how do you show up? Are you showing up? Are you complaining? Oh, it's Monday. Another case of the Mondays, whatever. No, you have the ability. If you're awake, you have the ability to bring positivity, positive energy to every aspect of your life, because you never know who you're going to affect. And being front and center in those rooms, yes, I'm there to absorb that information so that I can take it and give it back to somebody else. And that was the first time I'd ever been to that event. And what I'm super excited about is that was the first time I was at an event. The next event that's in January, I get to speak at. I get to get up in front of the room and be able to pour into everybody that shows up there. So I'm super excited about that. So if you're watching this, I think tickets for the Wildlife Expo just went on sale today, actually.
I think that did just go live today.
Yeah. So whenever this gets posted, that means that those tickets will be available. It's the end of January. It's going to be in Orlando. Hopefully, I know Orlando's supposed to be getting hit with this hurricane. So my thoughts, prayers. I have family down the South Florida area, and a lot of friends down there. Hopefully, it's not as bad as they're talking about. But if we're still go in January for that, I would love to. If you listen to this, come up and talk to me. I'd love to meet you. Let me know that you heard me here, or if you see me, you follow me. However, I can be of service to you guys. Reach out. I'm on Facebook. You can always shoot me a DM, send me a friend request. It's just Daine, Daine, Patton, Patton. Same thing on Instagram. So I share a lot of the same stuff on both of those platforms. And thank you for doing this. I can't wait to share it with my audience and have more people follow you.
Incredible. Likewise, and I can assure you that I will be front and center in your room when you are speaking, because I've learned an incredible amount today and look forward to continuing learning from you, Dane. Ladies and gentlemen, Daine Patton, Bats to Rats, Wildlife Control and Prevention in Lincoln, Nebraska. Thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you.